Do you want rice with your tacos?
Rice?
I'm asking you if you want rice.
No, that's okay.
Be so for real right now.
I don't mind rice, but if you haven't made it and you don't want it, don't bother making it.
You're so passive.
Passive?
You never answer a question, yeah or no. Do you want rice? Yes or no?
The question you're asking me is also for you.
He said
No,
no.
it's not! Do you want rice?
No.
Yes or no?
No.
No, you don't want rice.
No, I don't want rice.
Okay, well, thank you so much for finally answering the fucking question. We're getting divorced.
She does not want you to answer. She wants you to suffer. She wants you punished. She's faking her confusion. She's lying. It's all an act. And this performance is not about rice. It's about power. She knows exactly what she's doing, and so do the millions of women out there just like her. If you've been paying attention, you will have seen that this pattern is repeating itself from women to men across the culture. There is an agenda here that is unfolding. It's not a coincidence. Everything is a man's fault. Men are blamed for everything.
It is the actions of most men. Most men. There are very few that do not act this way. There are so many of them. They are everywhere, and comments like that just keep them in that cycle of never learning from their behavior, and it's the majority of them. That's why so many women are killed at the hands of men. Like, we're not making this up. It's this stupid gaslighting thing that men are so good at doing. How about you take that energy and mansplain to other men how to be better men?
These women, they don't want equality. They want an enemy. And that enemy is you. Not some men, not bad men, you. Blaming men is now the default setting, and modern women don't even bother to hide it. Their hatred is open, proud. They told you that they're fighting for equality, addressing historical injustices that were committed against women. They lied. This is not about progress or fairness or balance. This is the era of female revenge. The goal is not equality, it is suffering. They want men to hurt. Not all women, of course. You ladies who are kind and respectful to men who love masculinity, please know I'm never talking about you.
And bingo, Narwhalt. Not all women are like that. This is why I have such a love-hate relationship with Alexander Grace. He makes excellent videos which brilliantly break down the insane behavior of modern women, but just when his own arguments demonstrate clearly that MGTOW is the only winning move in the dating game, his gynocentric programming kicks in and he parrots the very same man-destroying bullshit narrative that not all women are like that.
You don't know what you're talking about, do you?
According to Brother Alexander, there are ladies out there who are kind and respectful to men and love masculinity. I.e., there are good women out there that don't hate men on a subconscious level. Yes, that is true. Just as it's true that there are Siamese twins out there. Just as it's true that there are true hermaphrodites out there with a cock and a pussy. About 1 in 2,000 babies is born with both sex organs, and about 1 in 200,000 births are Siamese twins. There is a word for this type of person. That word is an anomaly, or what we used to call a freak of nature. If you were talking about twins that walked around with 2 separate bodies, would you feel the need to qualify that all twins are not like that because Siamese twins exist? Of course not. If you were talking about people with just 1 sex organ, would you feel the need to qualify that not all people are like that because hermaphrodites exist? Of course not. So why does Alexander Grace, who recognizes the monstrosity that the combination of female nature and 60 years of female supremacy, aka feminism, has created what we call the modern woman, feel the need to qualify that not all women are like that?
Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
Because of his gynocentric programming that will simply not allow him to acknowledge the truth that in the modern world, not only do long-term relationships and marriage only benefit women, but they are actively destructive for men. Why? Because as he himself admits, women have a subconscious hatred for men, and exceptions do not disprove the rule. So for all intents and purposes, all women are like that.
Correct. Thank you.
So if he really cared about men, the only advice he would give in his videos is the advice I give in mine. Don't get married, don't cohabit, don't get into long-term relationships. Either go MGTOW monk or pay for professionals who keep themselves clean and won't make false accusations against you. These are the only types of relationships where the woman can't take her subconscious hatred of men out on you. Or if you're just too weak to master your libido and your ego can't bring itself to pay for it because you have to feel like you conquered her, and you're prepared to take the risk of her making false allegations against you because she woke up on the wrong side of the bed, not to mention the risk of picking up an STD because you're playing sloppy seconds to Chad.
That's not ridiculous. That's not ridiculous to say that.
Stick to situationships and friends with benefits only.
Agreed.
But that is not the advice Alexander Grace gives. So for me, even though he makes these great educational videos, he ruins it by enabling the inner simp that lives in even red-pilled men by encouraging them to believe in the unicorn of a good, kind, loving woman who's not like all the others.
Man, there you go with that bullshit.
I'm trying to help men understand female behavior that has previously never made sense. I'm explaining the true agenda that's playing out here and the psychological underpinnings that fuel it. Because men, the world is going to make a lot more sense to you when you finally wake up to the fact that all of women's hatred, the shame, the rage, it was never about justice, it's about pain.
Well, no fucking shit.
Those women want revenge.
Yes.
They don't want you to be better. They're not cheering for your improvement and celebrating each new milestone. They want to hurt you.
Yes.
They want you to be broken.
Yes.
All these men deserve like a first class ticket to hell.
Yes.
They need to burn, baby, burn.
Okay, let's get back to the video and address the seething resentment that women have for men. Recently, somebody commented on one of my videos that you can't build a life with someone that hates you on a subconscious level. 100% correct, but then the question arises, why do women hate men so much? Where did this come from? Women say that they have suffered, that history was cruel to them, that they have been oppressed. They couldn't vote, they couldn't own property, they were abused by their husbands. And of course, men never suffered. But let's take their argument at face value and say that historically they have been disadvantaged, that this is about justice, it's about righting wrongs, fairness. Okay. But then answer me this. If that's true, if that's the real motivation, then why is it that modern women are angrier than ever? They wanted protections in divorce. They got them. Custody laws? They overwhelmingly side with mothers. They wanted property rights, access to the workforce, the vote, political power, less domestic violence, more emotional support, more help around the house, more involved fathers. Done, all of it. Done. Every demand has been met. Every grievance has been addressed. But still, no apology ever seems to be enough.
Note the lack of surprise.
Curious, isn't it? The more men have tried to fix things, the angrier women have become. It makes no sense until you understand the truth, that this was never about equality. This wasn't about moving forward or cooperation. The purpose was revenge.
Of course!
They don't want balance. They want men to suffer.
Dude!
Women everywhere are saying, you don't get peace without my permission. Kevin Hart did that really funny comedy bit about how much women hate you having fun when you're with your friends, your male friends. How dare you be enjoying yourself when you're away from me? When you get home, you are going to be punished. Now ask yourself something. Why is it that the gender that prides itself on being nurturing and compassionate so indifferent to male suffering? Why do women who brand themselves as empathetic, emotionally intelligent, caring, why do they have no idea what it's like to be a man? Why can't they name a single male issue? Why, when you're in the company of women, does talking about male pain get met with hostility instead of empathy? For those women, the harsh truth is that they are not bothered by male suffering. They are entertained by it. They celebrate it because this is what they wanted. You should also ask the question, why are they so obsessed with making men soft, emotional, and feminine? Even when women pretend to care about men's mental health, it's almost always a barely disguised agenda to strip you of your masculinity.
You don't say.
I'm a frequent visitor to the therapist subreddit. I like to chat with mental health professionals. It's good for my work with the Hero Circle, the men's discussion groups that I run. But the community is viciously anti-male.
Oh, there's a big surprise. That's an incredible. I think I'm going to have a heart attack and die from that surprise.
The other day on this thread, I read this comment. The feminization of men would be a good thing, actually. Even the APA has come out swinging, noting that toxic and traditional masculinity have caused countless harm, not only to women and trans people, but especially to men themselves. If you're in the mental health space and claiming to advocate for men's mental health, or you are in favor of traditional or toxic masculinity, you are literally the problem you are claiming to solve. End of discussion. And it's hugely upvoted.
Of course!
Masculinity is apparently the problem. They don't want you to be better, they want you to be compliant. But this isn't healing, this is psychological castration.
You don't say.
The agenda here isn't to empower men and strengthen them, no, it's to feminize them.
No way!
And the disgusting irony is that this doesn't even help women. They have contempt for feminine men. They dismiss them as weak, while continuing to flock to the men who actually display masculinity.
Yes.
They are separating men from their masculinity on purpose. Not to help them, but to harm them. To make you reject who you are. To make you confused, ashamed, weak. To turn you into a man who has no fight left in him. Because a strong man, a man who knows who he is, he's a threat because he can resist, he can lead. He can look her into the eye and say no. That's what they fear, that's what they hate.
Does the word duh mean anything to you?
And that's why with this brand of modern woman, the conversations they have about men's mental health is not about helping men heal. It's about making sure that you're not strong enough to ever stand up again. You've seen it. Do the work. Unlearn your privilege. Sit with what's uncomfortable. This is what they're pushing. If they really cared about men's mental health, they would use language that strengthens and empowers men. But they don't, because that's not the goal. They don't want you to grow. They want you to submit. That is not compassion. That is punishment. All celebrated in the era of revenge. If the feminist movement was ever about equality, then tell me this. Why is it that male failure is celebrated? If equality means equal outcomes, men and women performing at the same level, then why is it that every drop in male performance is met with applause? Women are now the majority of new hires. They're graduating at higher rates than men. They're dominating education, healthcare, psychology, and every time the numbers come out that show that men are failing and struggling, it's framed as progress, victory even. As though women are conquering an enemy. How sick and twisted is that mindset? But many modern women are shameless. They loudly and publicly cheer, saying this is about balancing the scales and correcting past injustices, as though the men of the past weren't worked to death and sent to war, pushed to destroy themselves to build the modern world, with all of the comforts that it now offers. If you listen to modern women, you'd think that historical suffering was exclusively a woman's issue. They love that narrative because it's so much more convenient than the truth. Modern Modern women don't want to hear that everybody suffered. Both genders struggled in different ways in the past. No, they want to twist history to justify their hatred.
You don't say.
They exaggerate their past suffering to rationalize the abuse of men today.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
Men had power for centuries. Now it's time for them to shut up. That's the logic. Collective guilt, permanent punishment. I mean, the world, it's gone insane. Modern women are punishing men for wounds that they never felt, caused by men who no longer exist, and they have the nerve to call this progress.
Of course!
I'm sorry, who decided that guilt was inherited and that justice means punishment by proxy? You don't fix an injustice by creating a new one. But remember, justice was never the goal.
Well, no fucking shit.
We do not live in an era of justice. We live in an era of revenge. And once you understand that, the hostility, the hypocrisy, the rage, it all begins to make sense. They don't want equality, they want payback.
No way!
I am not optimistic about change being possible because modern women are like drug addicts. Their identity depends on getting the next fix. So I would like to coin a new phrase here, addictimhood. This is the condition that modern women have. They are addicted to their victimhood. What I recommend is a thorough detox. They need to create a new identity. I'm going to spend the rest of the video explaining this, how women got themselves into this mess, why it self-perpetuates, how women can get out of it,
What did you say, nigga?
and what men can do to speed the process along.
What did you say? What the did you just say?
How women can get out of the mess they made of themselves.
Your thoughts?
What? And what men can do to speed this process along.
Are you out of your fucking mind?
Lord, give me strength. Either this guy is the dumbest smart person I've ever come across, or he's some kind of controlled opposition Pied Piper, deliberately leading men into the gynocentric meat grinder. Either way, I need to expose the absolute insanity of what he just said. I'm going to start by answering the question he posed earlier and conspicuously failed to answer, because the answer exposes his narwhalt, not all women are like that bullshit belief system for what it is. A mommy's boy's fantasy.
He's out of line, but he's right.
He asked, why do women hate men? And that is the question every man needs to know the answer to if he is ever going to let go of trying to save women like Mr. White Knight Alexander Grace is fixated on doing. Or if he's ever going to let go of his inner simp's belief in the one. That one special woman who will give him the love his mother never quite gave him.
I can see what he's doing. I can see it. I feel it. He's cooking.
The reason women hate men is the same reason teenagers hate their parents.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Women hate men because of dependency. Teenagers hate their parents because even though they feel like they are old enough to look after themselves, make their own decisions, and do what they want to do, they really aren't. They are, in fact, dependent on their parents. So they have to get their permission to do what they want to do. And for most of those things, their parents ain't giving them permission. So they hate them. And their parents love to remind them of their dependency by telling them over and over again that as long as they're being fed and clothed and living rent-free in this house, they will obey the house rules and do as they are told. In exactly the same way, for the 2 million years of hominid evolution since Homo erectus started hunting, women have been completely dependent on men for their survival. Because they lack both the upper body strength and the grip strength to make or wield tools or weapons, and so are incapable of hunting, building shelters, or protecting themselves from either predators or hostile tribes, women have always been completely dependent on men for their survival. In simple terms, for 2 million years, up until about 50 years ago, if you were a woman and there was no man around who was willing to take care of you, you died. That kind of dependency and the lack of freedom that comes along with it breeds resentment. And resentment breeds hate. I'm not sure if Yoda put it quite like that, but that's the truth. Just think about what it felt like being a horny 14-year-old that had a curfew, or couldn't go to parties, or wasn't supposed to drink, or smoke, or play loud music. The way you felt about your parents when they stopped you from doing what your raging hormones were campaigning for you to do 24/7 is the way women have always felt about men. But in the same way that you mostly bit your tongue, swallowed your anger, and even managed to show some respect and appreciation for the sacrifices your parents made to put a roof over your head, food in your belly, and clothes on your back, up until about 50 years ago, women did the same for men. But don't get it twisted. The subconscious hate women have for men is a different order of magnitude than the hatred a teenager has for their parents. For one thing, a teenager also loves their parents, even if they're bad parents. A teenager is related by blood to their parents, and that bond is far stronger than any temporary quote-unquote hatred they feel at being dependent on them. This is not the case with women. For 2 million years, women's resentment for being dependent on men has, apart from incestuous couplings, not been mitigated by the bond of sharing the same blood. And so that resentment and subconscious hatred of men by women, what used to be called penis envy before feminists decided it was hate speech, has been allowed to fester and putrefy for 2 million years until the central banking interests,
the people Kanye proved you can't criticize,
and their cultural Marxist lackeys unleashed it onto Western society in the form of second and then third wave feminism.
It's all part of the plan.
This motherfucker don't miss.
No, he's fucking good.
That motherfucker don't miss, man.
He's good.
In the heat of battle, he don't miss.
No.
In the heat of controversy, he don't miss.
No.
And that is what explains the behavior Alexander Grace pointed out in his video. Because even though modern women like to pretend and parrot that they are strong and independent and don't need no man, just look at how they've been acting in Ukraine or any other war zone, or during a pandemic lockdown, or when they hit the wall and are single and childless. And you'll see quite clearly that deep down, women know that they are still completely dependent on men for their survival. For running water, heat, electricity, food, housing, communications, and every single convenience of modern life that we all take for granted until it's not working anymore. And if Alexander Grace understood the true cause of women's hatred of men, he wouldn't be dumb enough to think that they can be fixed or saved from themselves, or to think men should be wasting their time trying to accelerate that fixing or saving. The truth is, women are the very definition of what happens when you bite the hand that feeds you. The truth is, women are the very definition of cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Fatality.
Both self-destructive acts are acts that occur when you can't control your emotions and you prioritize those emotions over facts and reality.
That's not ridiculous. That's not ridiculous to say that.
There is a reason that across the world, the feminine has always been associated with chaos and the masculine with order.
These ain't opinions. These are facts.
So, Alexander, please get this through your incredibly smart but equally thick skull. Don't try to save her. She doesn't want to be saved.
Agree with that. I agree with that.
Don't try to fix her. She doesn't think she's broken. She thinks she's right.
Now listen! That's called motherfucking bars, nigga! You know nothing about that!
And I offer the same advice for any man listening who still holds out hopes of making a long-term relationship work with a modern woman.
What would you do with a brain if you had one?
My brothers, forget about women. Focus instead on living the best life you can live by becoming the best you can be, by embarking on the rites of passage initiation into manhood you should have had when you hit puberty, but modern Western culture, the Matrix, robbed you of.
Ah, you motherfucker!
Click the link in the description to learn more. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
He is the one.